So you really want to be a minimalist? Then it's time for some plastic surgery. Hey everybody, this is Emily Josephine, and I am in the middle of the series about how to become a minimalist. Steps to minimalism. I'm on the practical steps now, the action steps. This is step number 5. And yes, you interpreted the introduction correctly. Yes, I am talking today about cutting up your plastic money. Now, before you throw a hissy fit or your head pops off with shock or something, all right, well, calm down. There are exceptions, but first I want to tell you that research has shown that people who spend with cash, whenever they go to buy something, when they use cash, they spend less money than people who use plastic. More so with credit cards, but even debit cards. People who use debit cards will tend to spend a little more than people using cash. Why is this? Well, when you're paying with cash, boy, that's real money and it hurts. There's a little bit of a pinch whenever you hand somebody your dollar bills. You can see the money leaving your life. That's painful, and people tend not to, unless they're masochists, they tend not to like pain. They tend to try to avoid pain as much as possible. And so people who spend with cash avoid experiencing that pain by spending less. They just are not tempted to buy things they don't need. Now, people with credit cards, I probably don't have to tell you this, but a credit card is like borrowing money. And so you're not thinking of actually spending money. You're like, oh, this is money that I can pay later on. There's really no pain attached to it. It doesn't feel real. And so it's a lot easier to overspend when you have credit cards. Debit cards are a little bit different because you know that it is attached to your checking account and you're going to be in trouble if you spend too much. You're not borrowing other people's money, you're using your own. However, debit cards can still be an issue. So let's talk about the different exceptions. So first of all, if you are a naturally frugal person, you are a saver. You're not a spender, you are a saver. And you have always, always, always paid off your credit card bill as soon as it came the end of the month. You have never accrued any interest, then you may use a credit card. However, I'm going to caution you, you still may spend a little more than you really need to if you are using a credit card, even if you're naturally frugal. Again, it's that reality thing and not feeling the pain. So you might consider paying more in cash, so using cash for at least some of your purchases. That will help you to remain a minimalist. You will not buy things you do not need. So are you saying that if I'm a spender that I should never use a credit card again? Basically, yeah. And unless you have somebody in your life, a life partner, who is a saver and they're going to help keep you disciplined, they're going to be watching like a hawk what is spent. Yeah, and I realize that, people can change. People can have serious paradigm shifts that can make them, really be able to discipline themselves. If that's you, if you have been a spender, but you've gotten this revelation on minimalism and a credit card is just a lot easier than trying to get cash from the bank or ATM or whatever to spend, yeah, okay, there are exceptions. I understand people do change. But if you know that you are going to have a problem, especially if you have been one to allow credit card interest to accrue, I strongly recommend that you just cut up all your credit cards and forget it. What about debit cards? Debit cards, like I said, they're a little different. They're attached to your money in your bank account. Still, if you are a spender, you still may tend to buy things you don't need because you don't have the reality of spending in cash. Let me say this. If you, again, are naturally frugal, a debit card should be fine. You still may overspend a little bit, but not too much. If you are a natural spender, a debit card can be fine for you if you have spent at least 3 months paying only with cash, so that you can make a connection that this card in my hand, represents the money in my bank. It's like cash, so that you will make an association and a psychological and emotional association. When you use your debit card, it will be like those 3 or 6 or however many months when you were spending cash. Okay, this is cash. I need to remember this is cash. This is money coming out of my bank. I can't overdraw. If you're serious about being a minimalist, you are going to discipline yourself not to buy things you don't need. And one of the huge ways you can do that is to not have plastic money, or to be a very disciplined person with your plastic money. Now, I know there are some people out there saying, oh, what about emergencies? I need a credit card in case of an emergency. Let me throw this out here first, okay? Renting cars, okay? I know there's a lot of people who travel and they do car rentals, reserving motels and hotels. You need a credit card. You use a debit card. You can use a debit. I need to say this about debit cards. I forgot. Debit cards you should always use as a credit card, because then you have all the safety nets that come with a credit card. Using your debit card as a debit card and inputting your PIN number opens you more up to hackers and people looking over your shoulder and things like that. So yeah, use your debit card as a credit card. So as far as reserving motels, renting cars, yeah, you do need some plastic money. Make it be a debit card that's attached to your checking account. That said, well, what about the, people think I need a credit card in case of emergency. If you are a minimalist, you are either not in debt or you are working to get out of debt. And the very first step you should take before you start to try to get out of debt is to build up an emergency fund. You save, you make sure you have money at the end of every month. You save that money until you have X amount in an emergency fund. It's a special savings account called emergency fund, and you don't touch it unless an unexpected and undesired event happens in your life that you have to spend money on to fix. Okay, a bona fide emergency. Okay, having to buy a new dress for your friend's wedding is not an emergency. Guys deciding you're going to do XYZ project and therefore you need this new $200 power tool, that's not an emergency. Okay, you get me? An unwanted and unexpected event is an emergency. You should have that fund saved up. If you don't, you need to do that now. You do not want to count on plastic, a piece of plastic, for emergencies. This is dangerous. You do not want to get into debt because of an emergency. Be smart. Live below your means so you can save up money to accrue enough, whether it's $1,000, whether it's 3 months or 6 months of basic living expenses. Work to save that up, and then you don't have to think, I need a credit card for emergencies. You will have that special emergency fund. So, 5th step to becoming a minimalist: get rid of plastic money with the exceptions that I have offered. Basically, people who are natural savers are going to be a lot safer when they have plastic money. Still, cash is always king when it comes to spending, because it will help you to stay minimalist by not buying stuff you don't need. Thanks a lot for watching. If you appreciated this video, please share it with others. I will see you for the next step in becoming a minimalist. Until then, please make sure you help someone in need this week.